Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to My Pixel. It's so awesome to have you guys here today because today we're getting into how you can make your very own platform game. So if you're like me, you remember the days of the good old NES and Super Nintendo or Genesis or whatever else they had out at that time. And while you're playing your games at home, you might have thought about how awesome it would be to actually make your own game. But basically, the only people who could make games were some high speed pro game developers working for some huge game studio. But it's 2018 now, and lucky for us, things are way different. Now, anybody out there can make games. So, remember that game idea you've had since you were 10 years old? Well, today's the day to make it happen, and I'm going to show you how to get started. So, let's go. This is going to be the first of a series of tutorials that'll take you step by step into making a platform game. Just to give you an idea of where we're headed, here's a little preview. Now, this series is a work in progress, so things could change along the way. There are so many directions that we could take this in, and I haven't quite decided on which way we should go with it, but eventually we'll be able to build in even more functionality than what you're seeing here on your screen right now. So please, look forward to it. The idea here is that I want to break things down into bite-sized chunks so that you can bang it out in just a short amount of time. I realize that we're all busy people and you might not have 2 or 3 or more hours of time in a day to sit down and work on a game. After all, for a lot of us, this is just a hobby. So some of us can only squeeze in small sessions here and there. As for me, I've got a regular day job, which has got absolutely nothing to do with making games. And I'm also a father of 2 loud and energetic boys, right? Jumping all over the place, taking up all my time. Gotta love them though. So I hear you. That's why I'm going to do my best to keep things short and sweet so that you can consistently make progress on your game. Hey, if you're lucky, you might even make a game that'll take your kids' attention off of you. If that's the case, then maybe you and your wife or your husband can enjoy a drink together and just take a breather. So our game engine of choice today is going to be Godot, if you couldn't already tell by the title of this video. But as for why we're using Godot versus all the other game engines out there, I can go into that in another video, as I could go on for days about game engines. But for now, I'll just let you in on one of the reasons why we're using Godot. And that reason is that it is free. Yes, it's free, right? No strings attached, and there's no catch. You can download the software for free, use it for free, export your game to your favorite platform for free, and monetize any and all of your games for free. You don't owe anybody anything. Now, if that's not enough to get your attention, then I don't know what is. So without going on any further, let's get into it. Alright, so let's start making our game. So let's create a new project. Okay, we're going to browse to where we want to make this project. Pick any folder, doesn't matter. I'm going to pick this one here. We're going to give our project a name. Something cool like my platform game. That's cool, right? Click create folder, right? Create a folder there, and then create and edit. Okay. And then after that, it'll create your folder, and then you have your window, your project window here. If you want to see, this is the folder we created, my platform game. It's got a few files in it. If you want, you can delete these 3 files. They're not needed for this project, but I'm just going to leave them in there right now because they don't hurt anything. So, yeah, so we'll just close that out. Okay, and then before we get started, there's a few settings that we're going to want to do for our 2D pixel art game. So let's go and do those right now. First of all, we're going to get out of this 3D mode here. We're going to set it to 2D. Then we're going to go into project settings. Under rendering quality, we're going to want to check this use pixel snap. Right, so what that does is it's to avoid some scaling artifacts or offset artifacts, that visual artifacts that could be generated. Yeah, I don't know. Read about it in documentation. It probably explain it way better than I can. For now, just take my word for it. You want to use Pixel Snap. Then what you want to do is we're going to go into display and window, and we're going to set the parameters for our game as far as a window size and the program game size. So over here, we're going to set width to 320, and then we're going to set height to 180. Right? If you're a for the mathematicians out there, you can tell that's a 16:9 ratio. So just perfect for almost, all the PC screens out there in the world, right? So you can maximize and it'll fit nicely in your window. We're going to set the test width and test height to 4 times that. So 1280 by 720. And the test width and test height is just when we run our game to check our progress. You'll see it. The window is by default going to scale up to 4 times, or it's going to scale up to this size compared to our regular game resolution. Right? If not, then we have to, every time we run the game, we have to resize the window, and that gets old. So 1280 by 720 there. Then to make sure it stretches properly, when we stretch our window, we're going to set the stretch mode to 2D, and we're going to set the aspect to keep. Right? If you want, you can feel free to try some of these other settings and see if that gives you something else that you might desire. But I think what most of us are probably looking for and expecting is going to be achieved with 2D and keep. So let's go with that. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and create our first scene. Right? So Godot has created an empty scene for us. We can see up here empty. We're just going to add a node to this scene, right? What we're going to use this scene for is this is going to be our stage 1 or our world scene, right? Where the players and enemies and environment, everything is going to fit inside of this scene. So let's just click this plus button here, and we're going to add a node. You can search for node inside this tree. There's all kind of different stuff, or you can just use this search box, type the first few letters of what you're looking for, and find it that way. It's way faster. You should use the search box. So we'll double click Node 2D. Go add that in here to our scene. We're going to change the name of it. We're just going to call this Stage 1. We're not going to put that much in here for now, so we're going to go ahead and save the scene, right? You always want to be saving your work. So save scene. And it's going to create a scene file called Stage 1. That's fine. Save. Right? We can see in our resources folder here it appears. And then let's just go ahead and run the game. Right? This is no main scene has ever been defined, so would you like to select one? So we're going to select one. We'll just select the scene that we just saved. Right? The blank scene with nothing in it, right? So here it is. The game's running and nothing in it, right? But now what this is this is going to be the default scene that is going to run whenever you hit that play button. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a player scene, or a player. Player goes in a scene also. So let's click this plus button, create a new scene, and let's start creating our player. So hit this plus button over here, and what we're looking for this time is a kinematic body 2D. Right, so as you can see, they have kinematic body and kinematic body 2D. Now, this make sure you don't select this one up here, because this is the 3D version. We want the 2D one, right? Because we have a 2D pixel art game. So let's go. We're going to rename this to player. Okay. And then, as a child of this kinematic body, we're going to add a sprite so that we have something to look at. Okay, and then let's use sprite. Okay. Now we need a sprite, right? We need some texture, some picture, but we don't have any in here. So very quickly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy over the folder that I had for all the sprites. I'm going to put that in our project folder. All right, so let's find our project folder, right? My platform game. Let's just copy this in there. Okay, and while we're at that, I'd like to mention that these sprites are courtesy of Open Game Art. The person who made the sprites, or the author, is named Buch. I believe that's how you pronounce his or her name. So yeah, thank you to opengameart.org and Butch for providing us with these awesome sprites. I've modified some of them for our use here, and I've added some, but most of them came from the opengameart.org. So thank you to everybody over there. Okay, so now we're going to add a sprite. So we're going to sprites, player, and we're just going to add this idle sprite. And he's just standing there. Seems like a good one to put for now. Okay, let's zoom in there, and we can see he's blurry, right? We don't like that. Now the reason for that is because by default, when you when you import sprites, Godot adds these filters and stuff to them. We don't want that on there. So while we have the sprite select, click the import tab. We're going to go to preset, set it to 2D pixel, and then select re-import. And then now you can see we have nice pixel art. Right? Problem here is now we have all the other ones are set the same way. Right? So if we want to fix all of them at one time, we can just do a shift and shift click, and we can select a whole bunch of them at the same time. Then go back and do the same thing, 2D pixel and re-import. Right? And now we're good. We have awesome pixel art now. Okay. So now that we have that, right, we have a player, we have the sprite, and we have our texture. Let's go ahead and save our player scene. We're going to save scene. It's going to save as player.tscn. That's fine. Save. And we can see our player appearing here. Now, let's see, what should we do now? Okay, let's put our player inside of our world or inside of our stage. So to do that, we go back to our stage. We can see our stage. This purple outline you see here is basically the height and width that we set, right? That 320 by 180. You can see it on the rulers over here. Okay, so let's add a player. The easiest way to quickly do that is to just grab this player scene, click and drag it onto your screen. Right, so now if we run the game, we see we got a player here. Right, he's not doing very much, but hey, he's there. Actually, I just figured out that I forgot to put the other sprite back there. So let's go back into the player. Let's put the idle sprite back. Go here. Let's see here. Okay, we're going to save the scene. Okay. Oh, and also what you probably going to want to do is we're going to have a lot of objects sitting on top of here later on. Can't really explain until we get to it, but what you probably want to do is on your bodies, like your kinematic body, or on your topmost object, a lot of times what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pick this. Right? Make sure the object children are not selectable. Once you enable that, right, now when you do something like you grab this and you drag it around, you won't accidentally get, like, let's say maybe you got 3 hitboxes on this guy for some reason. You won't accidentally pull off a different hitbox, right? When you drag this character around, you will get everything, it and all of its children that you see over here. Okay. Let me zoom out. All right. Okay, and now that we have our little character there sitting so nicely in our scene, I'm just going to save all scenes. I like to save often. We need to add a script to our player to actually make it do something. So we'll select the player, and here's the add script, right? Make sure the player is selected and the add script. Right? You can leave all the defaults here and just click create. Right? And now we have a default script to start working with. Okay, so first let's just go ahead and remove all the stuff we don't need in the script. Right? All these things with these pound marks or hash marks, they're all comments. We can just get rid of that. Right now we're not going to be using this built-in ready function, So let's just get rid of that, all in the name of keeping things more clean and clear. Right? This function process delta, we're not going to use the process function, we're going to use the physics process. So let's just add physics onto it. Right? I can go into detail about the physics process versus process in a different video, but for now, just trust me, and let's use the physics process. Okay. Up here we can declare some more of our variables. So first off, let's create a variable for velocity. Right, so this is gonna dictate how fast our character is moving. Okay, so we're just saying the velocity is a vector 2. A vector 2, if you don't already know, just really quick, basically it's just a variable that's going to take two values, an x and a y. Right now we're leaving it empty. If you'd have an x and a y, it might look something like this, right? X 0, y 3, but for now we don't know what we want it to be, so we can just leave it empty like that. Okay, then what we're going to do is we are going to try and move our character. So we're going to do that like this. So we're going to do if input is action pressed. Right, so basically as long as something is pressed, right, we're going to, like if a key is held down, right, as long as the key UI right, you can map different keys on the keyboard to what it recognizes as UI right, but right now if we hit the right arrow key, it'll show up as UI right. So if input action pressed is UI right, put the colon at the end, right, hit enter, and we're going to say velocity dot x equals, let's just say 30. Okay. Let's see. Maybe I should explain a little bit about this scripting. It's like Python. So basically, when you're inside of a code block, like an if statement, you have to indent. Right. I won't go too much into it. Again, I can do another video about syntax and everything like that. For now, if you're following along, just do exactly as I do, and you'll be all right. Okay. So if input is action pressed, UI right, then my velocity equals 30. Okay, if we run the game like that right now, and I press the right key, it doesn't do anything, right? Because all I did was I set velocity equal to 30. I didn't tell the character that it's supposed to move with velocity. So now let's do that. Okay, to do that, we're going to do a move and slide, right? And we're going to move by velocity, right? So we're setting our velocity x equals to 30. There's actually a velocity y, which is still 0, right? But our velocity x is 30, and then we're saying we want to move by whatever velocity is, and in this case is velocity x equals 30. So now if we run the game and we press the right key, we can move right. But now we can't move left, or he doesn't stop and he moves straight off the screen, right? That's no good. We need to be able to move left and make him stop. So let's add on to this. So we just coded everything for right, right? So if right, we go press right, then go 30, right? Now we're saying, well, what if we want to do left? So we do a elif or a else if. Right, let's just copy this code. Right, so it's if input is action press equals, and we're going to say instead of UI right, we're just going to say UI left. And if we're going to go UI left, then we want our velocity.x to equal -30 because we're trying to move in the opposite direction. Right? If we go ahead and run that, now we can move left, we can move right, but if we don't press anything else, then he never stops. So let's make it so he can stop. So if you press right, go right. If you press left, go left. Then we do an else, right? Which means if we're not pressing right and we're not pressing left, then always do this. Right? Velocity.x equals 0. Right? And this will stop it from moving if we're not pressing any buttons. So if we hold the left key, he moves left. If we let go, he stops. If we hold the right key, he moves right. Once we let go, he stops. Okay. Now let's just say we want to make it move up and down. That's pretty easy, right? We've already got our base for that. So what we can do is we can just take all of this code and we can adjust it for our y-axis. Right? So action press, instead of right, we can say up, UI up. Instead of left, we can say UI down. Right? All these x's, right? We're talking about x-axis, which is left and right. Now we're going up and down, so we're talking about the y-axis. So we're going to change all velocity.x's from, or we're going to change all velocity.x's to velocity.y. Okay, now in Godot, the coordinates work like this. This is 0, 0. As you move to the right, it's positive. As you move to the left, it's negative. Right? On the y, as you move down, it's positive. And as you move up, it's negative, right? So the y-axis is performing opposite to what you probably learned in your, high school geometry, trigonometry, what have you. Right? So right is positive, left is negative, down is positive, up is negative. Okay? Let's go back to our player and script. So if we want to move up, right, up was negative. So we're going to say -30. If we want to move down, down was positive. So we're going to say +30. Okay? And then we hit play. And let's see what we got. Right? We can move right, left, up, and down, right? We can move up and left, down and right, right? And you can move all over the place, and as soon as we stop pressing the buttons, he stops moving, right? So very quickly, you can see how we went from nothing to being able to move a character around a screen, right? And it really wasn't that much code. It was just here, right? A lot of our initial setup took time, but once we had everything set up, right, we worked out this for left and right. We knew up and down was almost the same, so we just modified for up and down. All in all, I think that's pretty easy and not too bad. So today we went from nothing to the start of something pretty cool, and there's going to be a lot more content coming soon, so keep on a lookout for it. If you liked today's video, please give it a like and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Also, feel free to leave me a line in the comments. You can just say hi and let me know how you're doing, or you can maybe let me know what you'd like to see, what else you'd like to see on this channel. I'm going to make today's tutorial project folder, which includes the sprite resources and everything we worked on today. That'll be available for download on my Patreon page. So I'll leave the link in the description in case you want to check that out. And with that, we're good. So I'd like to say thank you to everybody for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.